I used to hate the kitchen as a child and escaped it whenever I could. Cooking felt like a terrible chore, something that had to be done every single day by my mom, who would rather clean every floor and window in the house than stir anything in a pan. We had a set of rather boring meals for the week, almost set in stone. At that time, food felt more likely like a necessity for survival. We mostly ate meat dishes, pierogi, sometimes fish, and potatoes almost every day. Peeling those dirty spats was my most hated task. Even though I wasn't asked to do it very often, I swore at the age of 7 or 8 that I would never do it when I grow up. One thing my mom did make happily were cakes on weekends. Nothing fancy, just a yeast cake with plums and crumble topping, or szarlotka, the classic Polish apple pie. I loved eating them while they were still hot, almost burning my lips. And I can still remember that mouth watering, buttery smell filling the kitchen. Despite the difficult times in communist Poland in the late 70s and 80s, where I grew up in a small town near the mountains, my parents had a surprisingly rich social life and hosted regular dinners, even when resources were scarce. My dad was a bon vivant. He loved trying new dishes, setting the table nicely, entertaining guests, and enjoying a few glasses of wine or shots of vodka. He even invented his own signature cocktails, usually with dried plums or cherries soaked in Bulgarian brandy. I loved those busy evenings, all the aunts and uncles, the conversations, the laughter. Only years later did I realize that my dad was the creative director and my mom, the somewhat reluctant chef. Unlike him, she ate simply to live, and she still does today at the age of 85. Despite all that, life had a different plan for me. First, I spent some time in Canada with a very foodie aunt when I was 20. And she introduced me to cuisines from all over the world. Then I somehow married a half German, half Italian man whose mom, Rosaria, lived for good food. She gave cooking courses and had absolutely no limits when it came to quality. She drove the oldest Volkswagen Santana in town, yet bought fresh octopus, lemons flown from Italy, the best Argentinian steaks you could imagine, and bottles of Amarone della Valpolicella she would bring back from her favorite vineyard near Verona. I still remember tasting pasta with homemade basil pesto and freshly grated parmesan for the first time in my life. It was heaven on my palate. Moving to Germany in 1995 and suddenly having an Italian chef as a mother in law felt like a quantum leap in the food universe. There were so many ingredients and dishes I had never tried before: fresh mussels, vitello tonato, pasta with truffles, just to name a few. That time marked the beginning of my fascination with taste, my own cooking journey, and perhaps the only gift that survived a marriage that didn't. My mom still cannot quite believe it, and my dad can only watch from another dimension now. Unfortunately, he passed away before I cooked my first truly fancy dish. I was 27 and I made a pork fillet wrapped in grilled aubergine, fresh herbs, and puff pastry. I served it to my aunt and uncle, my dad's younger brother. I'll never forget his astonishment and the praise. he gave my cooking. That moment was incredibly rewarding and reassuring. It was probably the moment I started trusting my own taste bud and stopped following recipes blindly. For the past 30 years, cooking and sharing food has become a crucial part of my life, something that grounds me, calms me down, and simply makes me happy. Whether I'm just rubbing salt and olive oil into a steak, making a quiche, or carefully wrapping pastry around slow cooked beef, I love the feeling of oil, flour, and butter on my hand, the chopping, the mixing, the middle stage, and finally the grand finale at the table. Sometimes just with Eamon, my Irish love, sometimes with friends, and almost always with a glass of good wine.